Hello everyone. We are going to be talking about what sold in my online reselling shops for the 2 weeks starting, I think it's the 2nd through April 15th. So we have a few to get through. I feel like it should be more since it was 2 weeks, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Two things pretty much saved the couple weeks. One was selling the Jams World Hawaiian shirts and Poshmark. So eBay was slowish with a few, fairly decent sales in there to kind of help keep the numbers somewhat okay. But then I had, it looks like almost an even amount of Poshmark sales as well during that time. So gotta love cross-listing. And if most of my clothing sold on Poshmark, I would be a happy camper. It is so easy to cross-list to there, and then shipping is a breeze and everything. So anyway, let's start with eBay. We had this running hat, which sold at an offer for $18, and it's Saucony running. It had its original tags and everything, and so I think I picked that up. I think I just picked that up at Goodwill, so paid a couple dollars for that and sold for $18. Next one, okay, it's one of these a folding utility knife set 2-packs. My husband, I keep forgetting to ask him, he picked them up at like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. They were on clearance. And I know he's not making a ton on each one, but he made one listing, and all he has to do is kind of redo the listing. He's just choosing to do it that way. He could do a quantity, but then they're mostly selling. He's got them listed for $24.99. This one sold for $18. I think that's the lowest that he goes when accepting an offer, and so you'll see a few more sprinkled in throughout here. I would say he's probably making somewhere in the $5 to $8 range on each one. I don't know. But it's, like I said, he made one listing, and it's just a quick relist. And that's kind of the name of the game with retail arbitrage, is your profits aren't usually as big, but the listing process is easier. So that one sold for $18. That was about the lowest I think they've sold for. He did sell one on Mercari, and then he listed another one after that one sold. He listed another one, and that might be why he's not doing quantity on eBay, because he had them also listed, like cross-posted, and didn't want to keep up with those numbers and everything. So he sold the one on Mercari, and then he listed the second one, and Mercari took it down like immediately and said it was like a dangerous weapon or something like that. So anyway, we're kind of done with Mercari. I know people have asked. We just kind of do odds and ends. My husband has sold quite a bit of Lego on there, but we just don't like it as a selling platform. And we hardly have anything on there at the moment, which is why I don't really ever show our solds on there, because they're either just stuff we're trying to get rid of, personal items, things like that. Anyway, okay, so let's move on to the next one. This was a baseball cap for the Portland Timbers, and it sold for the full asking price of $25. I did get that at Goodwill, paid $2 for that one. We're finding that the more obscure the hat, it's almost better, right? So kind of the sports teams ones and things like that. Some of those can sell really well, especially vintage, but they can be more dime a dozen. And if you have something a little more obscure, kind of like coffee mugs, right, it can sell to the right person. And we're always happy to get over $20 for a baseball cap. Here is a pair of shoes I was just glad to get rid of. I took an offer for $15 on these. They're Skechers Shape Ups. I did double check as I checked them a little while ago because I keep hearing how the Shape Ups, the foam inside can crumble, it can dry rot with time. And so I double checked these before I sent an offer out to somebody. I think they countered at the 15 and I was like, yeah, just take them. No one else seems to be interested in them. They've been listed since last year sometime. And this was a fun one. Nice 1970s or 80s shirt made out of velour. I don't know if you can like picture how that feels. It did have a little bit of thinning in the velour, like around the shoulders and stuff. But this one sold for $32. And I thought that was really good. I got that at Goodwill as well. So paid about $5 to $6. I usually have a coupon at Goodwill. So whatever their asking price, and it varies. The long sleeves vary according to season. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna guesstimate $5 to $6 on that one. So here was the most recent Jams World shirt that sold in the more recent weeks, and this one had been listed in that first batch of ones that I listed, and the buyer first like offered me really low price, like $40, and then we kind of went back and forth, and I decided, you know what, 80 is my lowest. This could sell for a little bit higher, but I hadn't sold a Jams World in a while. I was down to just a few, and I was like, I'd be okay with $80 on that. So the buyer accepted that offer, and then what was interesting is that over the next couple weeks, he went on to buy like 5 more Jams World shirts, and he didn't try lowballing. At one point, I did start a 15% off coupon, and so some shirts he just went ahead and used that coupon, and then some others I sent out an offer that was more like 20%, so a little bit more than the 15%, and he accepted those offers. So it actually worked out pretty good to give him this $80 deal, because then he went on to become a repeat buyer. And I moved some more shirts. Now, I will link, or maybe at the end of the video, I will link to those 2 Hawaiian shirt videos if you haven't seen them yet. And it shows the place that I got them. Well, I'm not sure if I told you on a video, but I went back to that place like a week later, and they had put out more Jams World shirts, more Hawaiian shirts. So I picked up about 10 more, and they remembered me, so they went ahead and gave me the same price they gave me the first time, $15 per shirt. And I got some Rain Spooners and some Jams World, and then I think a Robert Graham. But they were just like kind of hanging in the closet. I hadn't been doing anything. Well, when eBay was fairly slow, I was like, you know what? I need to get some of those on there. So a lot of those new ones I listed, and then this buyer ended up buying them. So it was a good way to kind of get a little cash infusion into my eBay shop and just taught me a lesson not to procrastinate on doing my listing, even though it was good I did it after this buyer came along, because then he bought them. So I'll show you the other ones that sold this week. Someone else bought one as well. And then here's one more of these knives. That one sold for full asking price of $25. Here's another one. This was in that second batch of Jams World, and this was that same buyer. And nope, this was not the same buyer. This was the one that was the different buyer. He paid $64.99 pretty quickly after I listed it, probably same day, a couple hours later. And yes, he paid the full $65 for this shirt. Next one is another Jams World. So now we're back to, no, we're not. I'm so wrong. So I actually sold quite a few of these Jams World shirts. This was another one of the new ones that sold. So same thing. He paid full price. This was, somebody totally different, and his username references jams. And so he's obviously a Jams World collector. And so he paid $60 for that one. Now this is kind of interesting. I did take an offer. let's see, are they showing the coupons on these? I might have to open them to show the coupon. Okay, I'm looking inside my, yeah. Okay, so the coupon may have started at this point. This is a vintage pack from 1983 of men's white crew neck t-shirts. They're natural cotton. Some people do collect vintage, not just underwear, but the vintage t-shirts. So sometimes they just like a certain, way things were made back in the day. Now, this would have gone higher, except, let's see, the back of it was hard to tell because the back of the package was also white, but underneath it, I could kind of tell that the white had discolored on the back. So there was 3 shirts in there, one of them would probably been discolored. And then there was, maybe a little bit of like dirt or dust or whatever that had kind of gotten into the little air holes of the plastic. So those sold for $25. And I just picked those up at Goodwill for $5 or something like that. But yeah, keep an eye out for the vintage underwear, new in package especially. Okay, so now I believe we are back to my repeat buyer. Yes, and he got this for $80 minus 15%. So like $68, I think he got it for. And it was one of the newer ones that I listed as well. And then we sold a Pendleton. This wasn't wool, it was made out of cotton, but it was really nice coloring. And it's a flannel shirt. And it sold for $35 minus the 15% coupon. And then this one was interesting. It was I got this at our little bins outlet place. And it sold, nope, this one did not. Yes, this did have the discount as well. So probably all of the sales from here on out for the rest of those 2 weeks are going to be minus 15%. So this actually went to a shipping company that was going to send it overseas. And so, yeah, like I was saying earlier, just the random kind of subjects on baseball caps have been doing the best for us. So this was $25 minus $4, so like $21 we got for this hat. It was a little bit dirty. My husband cleaned it up and it sold, I would say, within a week or so. This skirt's been listed a long time. I'm glad it finally sold. It's a Ralph Lauren and it is a black label, which is a good label, one of the higher tiers in the Ralph Lauren clothing. And then it was like linen and it had a gold metallic and everything. So I was kind of surprised it took a while to sell, but it did sell for the $40 minus the $6, so $34 is what it ended up selling for. A pair of Gap jeans that are new with tags, and those sold for $26.99. Let me double check. Sometimes things are offers, but no, that one was $26.99 minus the 15% discount. I don't generally worry about, flipping Gap jeans. These were a little bit of a larger size, and then they also were new with tags. So that was the reason I picked them up. And then another Jams World. Now this one had been listed for a while. And so this one went to my repeat buyer. He used the coupon. Nope. Sorry, looking at my phone. He sent me an offer for $59.99 and I went ahead and took that. Then we sold another one of these for $22. Sorry, I should say it for those of you working while you're listening, or, listening while you're working and everything. It was another utility knife set. And another Jams World. So this was one of the newer ones I listed. This one went to the repeat buyer as well, and he just went ahead and used the 15% discount, and I had listed that at 100, and so he got it for about $85. Johnny O, we recently went to the thrift store as a family, and you'll see a couple things in this haul, but my husband was like, he's like, oh, I went over to sportswear and I looked through all the sportswear, men's, right? And I was like, oh, that's good, because I never look in that row at the thrift store. And he's like, really? He's like, I always look in there. And I figured it out later that when I used to look in that row, it was mostly just like running shorts and like little tank tops and base layers. And if I have limited time at the thrift store, I kind of focus on the more heavier duty clothing that usually gets you a good like return. Well, what I didn't realize they had started doing was all the golf clothes were being put in sportswear. So he went through, he found like some Peter Millar and some FootJoy and things like that. And all those used to be like sprinkled in with like the long sleeve shirts or the jackets or whatever. So I thought that was interesting. So he picked up this Johnny O Stretch Performance, a little pullover. It did have an embroidery for a place, and it was, let's see what they actually paid. I think they paid $30 for this. It was an offer that we went ahead and took, mostly because of the embroidery. Sometimes my husband puts higher prices on things, and just kind of, when there's not a ton of comps, he just kind of starts off with a higher price, and then we've got wiggle room for offers and for coupons and things like that. And another one of the knife sets sold, that one for $20. Then this was kind of an interesting find. It's a Staples Arc notebook system. It was all new. I had picked it up at the thrift store, debating. There was something that I thought maybe I could use it for, and I debated using it myself. And then as I looked at it, I said, you know what? I probably won't even keep up with using it. So I went ahead and listed it. And I listed it for $35 for the whole set. I paid $5 for all of it at the thrift store. And they got it for $35 minus the 15% coupon. And another Jams World, same buyer. This one, $63.99. Let me see what that was. That must have been an offer. That could have been an offer I sent out to him using send offers to likers kind of thing. So $63.99, $64 for that one. And then I think he bought this one at the same time. So this one, he accepted the offer on that older one. And then this one I had just listed. And so he used the 15% coupon on this. So it was $80 minus the 12. And so he got 2 shirts. This is a fishing shirt. The brand is Sims. It's a good name to keep an eye out for. Here's the label. And it's Sims fishing products. You know, some of their jackets and more heavy-duty pieces of clothing can get really good prices. And this one sold for $30. It's just a plaid kind of shirt, but in nice shape. Here's another one we're going to say we're happy is gone. It's been listed forever. I fell victim to the name Eileen Fisher, the fact that it was linen, but the color wasn't so great, that chartreuse or whatever. And the size was not that great, extra small. And so it has been listed quite a while, but it sold finally for $16. Random car part my husband picked up from who knows where, because we've never had a Subaru Forester Outback. But it's a jack, and those can sometimes do pretty good. So it was $25 minus the 15%. And then these were a recent pickup by my husband. He got them at the Bins, our little outlet store. We don't do a whole lot with Sperry. Like, some can be good, some can be bad. But these are very spring-like, and, you know, at our little Bins or outlet, we hardly pay anything for them. He did clean them up a little bit, and they sold for $28.99 minus the 15. And then the last sale for the last 2 weeks was these O'Neill Racing Hardware, their racing pants. When I had looked them up at the store, I felt like the comps were higher, but then I don't know, maybe I wasn't looking at the right thing. But they sold for $35 minus the 15%. So moving over to Poshmark, this is it's a zip up. It's kind of sweatshirt material, like a knit. It was this jacket, and it had a hood, and the brand is Joseph Ribkoff. I'll show you the label. I've done okay with that brand. I'm kind of selective, but I thought this look would be something that someone might be interested in, and it was only listed a few days, I believe, and sold for $34 on Posh. I picked it up at a thrift store in the next town over, and on one of their half-off days. So I think I paid about, I don't even remember. I want to say like $6. This was a camouflage button shirt. The brand is Rattlers. It's made in the USA. So it's older. It didn't have a size tag, so we kind of guessed on the size, and we gave measurements. And it was connected to Ducks Unlimited. And so you can see the little ducks in the pattern there, so that was kind of cute. I don't know if a hunter wants to be described as cute, but I like the ducks hiding in there. Here's a shoe brand. I was happy to find these at the thrift store with their original tag. The brand is called Fly London, and it had really cute little pattern in the bottom here. Here's a better picture. Fly London. I figured out the style name of the brand and everything, and these sold for $48. They were listed a little while, but it was right at the end of winter that I found them and listed them. So now that we're into warmer weather, I say we're into warmer weather in some parts of the world, but yes, again, it snowed this morning in Montana, and it's April 18th. April 18th, it's tax day. Did you finish your taxes? I did. I did my taxes yesterday. I was so proud. Okay. Anyway, Vans, a little pair of kids' Vans, sold for $15. Super cute. Vintage 90s Levi's. It was like a black denim shirt, very kind of unique, and it got a lot of interest pretty quickly and sold on Posh for $36 within a week of listing it. This is a Columbia fleece vest. I'm assuming it was at the Bins that my husband picked up one time, because we don't generally buy Columbia to flip. You know, it really depends on the piece, but just kind of average something like this, we wouldn't bother, because as you could see, we got $17. We were happy about that. But we wouldn't have paid a full thrift store price for that. This was a Seattle Mariners baseball cap that was made in the USA, and that sold for $20. This was a really nice vest. You know, you can use lots of different, these multi-pocket vests can be, you know, cargo, photography, safari type style. You know, you could use it for fishing, all sorts of things. The brand was just not really known. It was vintage. And so the brand is called Austin Reed. It was made in Taiwan, so it was probably like 80s, whatever. It was just a really nice condition and everything, and finally got someone interested in it for $15. So I hope they're happy. And then this was another camo piece. one of our rare family thrifting days. We were at Goodwill. My husband picked these up, and the brand was Beretta. And I don't know where his picture... Here we go. Here's the brand Beretta. And he sold them for $24. Another vintage baseball cap sold for $20 is the Detroit Tigers, and it was denim. And, you know, some of these things we had listed at higher prices, especially for vintage. And, you know, you just wait and see if there's a buyer out there for it. And someone offered me 20, and I thought, you know what, that's fair enough. If that's what people are offering. You know, a lot of the resellers are talking about that it's more of a buyer's market these days. We're accepting lower margins than we've had in the past. You know, nothing will ever be probably quite like the pandemic reselling. So a lot of people started reselling during the pandemic and had such good results. And now we're not only like back into kind of normal reselling, you know, the economy is a little bit rough right now. People are kind of spring and summer, they start to get out and about. And so we do what we have to do to get the sales that we need to, right, as resellers. Pair of Calvin Klein loafers. I picked these up at the bins. I'd had them for a little while in my profit pile, but just hadn't gotten around to listing them. My husband was looking for some quick and easy things to list one day, and I threw him a few pairs of shoes that I just hadn't had time to do yet. And so he got those listed, and they actually sold fairly quickly on Poshmark for $28. This Cabela's jacket, I remember buying this at the thrift store and seeing good comps. We had it on eBay and not a whole lot of attention. But I think we listed it during winter. It's more of a like windbreaker kind of raincoat. So it sold for $44. Cabela's doesn't generally, it's very specific, the pieces that will sell. And this one was a 3XL. And so I thought that was in its favor. And we got a nice price for it. So $44 for that. Next was this Nike Golf. It was like a soft shell jacket and really nice jacket. You know, Nike kind of is very bread and butter to us. We don't generally pick it up. I probably picked this up just because it was in good shape. I don't know. Anyway, it sold for $23. That was fine. And then I don't know if you remember this jacket. This was probably in my last what sold, and it sold on eBay. And if I remember correctly, it was like in the $55 range or so that it sold for. It was the jacket. We had no comps, even though Outback Trading Company is a known, you know, they do a lot more like dusters and outdoor coats. And this was a blazer, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and the buyer got it and it didn't fit. And so he sent it back. So I relisted it, and it sold on Poshmark for $65. So it sold a little bit higher the second time around. We have another Sims. This one had a little bit more wear to it. Just a short sleeve kind of vented fishing shirt, and that sold for $23. Cinch is a Western brand, and this one was interesting. It was a flame resistant, tagged as flame resistant, and that's generally clothing that has the FR is something to kind of keep an eye out for, because certain jobs require that you wear it. And so people, you know, the resale market is fairly good. I generally, if it is flame resistant, I look for pieces that are in really good condition. Chaco, I don't know. How do you guys feel about selling Chacos? I feel like there was a lot of hype, or maybe they used to sell better in the past. These were just a youth, you know, size 3, and I'm not sneezing at the $20 I got for them. But I'm just like not as excited when I see Chacos I don't know. I think I thought they were better than they were. Anyway, I have a pair of leather chacos that I found that I can't sell to save my life. And I do know like this, the colored kind of nylon ones do better. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe I'll find a pair of chacos sometime that prove me wrong. Okay, another Cabela's. This is interesting. I actually had just bought this jacket for my son. And it's just a men's small, but I like the look of it. It looks like a shirt with a hoodie underneath, but it's all one jacket. And he wasn't wearing it. And I kept saying, did you forget you have this? And honestly, part of the problem was that most of the winter we need to wear down jackets. And so it was just getting into like warmer weather, and he wore it one day. And then he came home and he's like, Mom, I think it's a woman's jacket. And I'm like, what? And so we tested the buttons and they're all on the side for men's and everything like that. But he just didn't take to it at all. And I said, fine, we'll just list it and sell it. And so it sold for $28, which is good. I really thought that these would sell for a lot higher than they did. I sell like kind of no-name brand like LEI and, some of those Y2K brands, mall shoes, like cheapy things. I would sell those for $25, $30 really quickly. And these were Steve Madden, and they had a style name on the inside. They had this horse bit look. They were in fairly good condition for their age. And I had them listed, I had them on Depop, I had them on Posh, I had them on eBay, and just was not, people would look at them, but that was it. And so when I got the $37 offer, I said, you know what, let's just move things along. And then here was kind of a rare flatware sale. I don't list a ton of flatware on Poshmark, so that's why it's a rare sale. But I got $14 for these 3 serving pieces by J.A. Henckels. Bowden dress sold for $28. This a while back, maybe a year or more. About a year. I came across a bunch of Bowden dresses. Someone had donated a bunch to Goodwill, and I picked up quite a few. And so I thought this one was super cute. And I was surprised it took as long as it did, but it sold for $28. FootJoy, this was another one of those golf items that my husband found in the sportswear rack, and that I hadn't been looking at. And this one was personalized with a local golf course, but it still sold for $34. And then the next 2 items are a bundle. So this Untuck It shirt and then this Duluth Trading Untucked line shirt. That one was new with tags. Sold together for $56. And so I just figured $28 a piece was a pretty good price. And that was it for that. Moving over to Ruby Lane, I had this sell, so I wanted you guys to take a look at it. It's kind of a funny looking thing. Basically what it is a bracket for an Anchor Hocking chip and dip set. So it's just the bracket only. You put it on the edge of the larger bowl, and then you can sit the smaller bowl into it. And so it's, a lot of times people have the bowls, but they don't have the bracket anymore. And I've sold a few of these over the years, but I had sold them on Etsy, and I listed this one for $24, and it sold. And then on Ruby Lane, we had a sale. Ruby Lane, I'm not a fan, okay, but Ruby Lane has been kind of going crazy with the sales events. And, a lot of Ruby Lane sellers are a little upset because, they feel like it's turning Ruby Lane into more of a bargain type marketplace. You do not have to participate in the sales. This one I decided to, the way they're running the sales now is that for a while they'd been doing them that you had to mark whatever you put on discount had to be 50% off. And that's like crazy steep. And so people would just use it for clearance or whatever. And then they modified it because everybody was upset about that. So they said, you know, for every item you list at 50% off, you can list another item at like 20% or 30% or 40%. And so half the items in your sale had to be 50% and the other half could be lower percentages. So I debated. I don't really like these whole sale event things, but I was like, you know what? I need to clear some things. So I kind of went through and did 50% on the stuff I didn't care about. And then I could pick, you know, an equal amount of items like to do at like 20% or 30%. So this was one of the ones I went ahead and just did half off on this. I sold this. It was just a yardage of silk material that was purchased in Thailand, I would assume, or it was, you know, purchased here, but basically the address is from Bangkok. Anyway, so that sold for $20. It had been listed a while. I kind of just let that one go. But then I think this one, then I just did, it was 20% off. And I sold this very spring looking brooch for $20. It was unsigned, but just had lots of pretty colors in it. And then another item, this was in the sale as well. I just put 20% on this. I loved this ring. It was very cool looking, very brutalist. It was a small size. It was like a size 5 or 5.5, which is like a very tiny finger. And I got this at a yard sale for like $1 or $2 at the most. And it had this little case that it came in. And then the maker's marks, everything were Dublin. So it's from Ireland. And then the stone on the top was Connemara marble. So very, you know, something you would get as a souvenir, you know, as a tourist. So such a cool ring. Probably would have done better if it was a little bit bigger, but I was so happy to get $60 for that. And then here's just a basic, this one wasn't part of the sale. This was after the sale was over, just a very basic vintage statement bracelet. No signature, you know, it's just these little cabochons are just acrylic with kind of a wrinkly foil paper behind it to give it that look. And that sold for $18. And here's another very spring looking brooch, enamel and rhinestone. It was very domed, if you can see kind of from the side. It was pretty high, right? And so that one sold for $16. Now going over to Etsy, just a few pattern sales in those couple weeks. $8 for this little one. The only thing interesting about this is that this had been listed on eBay for probably a couple years, and I decided to move it over to Etsy, and it sold very quickly for $8, which is better than nothing. Sold this vintage, oh not vintage, a Vogue. It actually is not very old, but this Vogue pattern sold for $15. It was a designer, Tracy Reese. And then another Vogue pattern sold for $20. This is a little bit older. It sold, it sold for $20, and it was just different hat styles as part of the pattern, and it was uncut. This McCall's very simple blouse pattern sold for $10. And then this Western shirt, I kind of do keep a lookout for Western shirt patterns. You know, some can do pretty well. I have sold this pattern, I think, at least one other time, and it sold. So it sold for $20. I just recently picked this up at our little Bins outlet shop, so I paid pennies because I got a huge stack and got charged like $1 for the stack or something. Moving over to the Flatware, just this cold meat fork, serving utensil, but with the bamboo handle. I always look for bamboo handled style flatware. It doesn't matter the brand, it usually will sell. And then I had this variation listing, which if you need to know how to do a variation listing, I did do a video on that. You can look for that on my channel. And I had a buyer buy the last 2 items in this variation. So I think she bought the long spatula and one of the fork. No, it was the ladle and the fork, one of these forks. And she bought both of those. So that variation listing is empty as far as I know. And it's there if I ever kind of find that set again, I could kind of work off of it. Otherwise, I could just start fresh with a new listing. Then over to my husband's Etsy shop. He actually does work his Etsy shop fairly regularly, so he did have more sales over those couple weeks. But we both have been kind of busy with different life stuff happening, and he's had some jobs outside the house. I was working on taxes and just all sorts of things. So we are very happy for the sales that we do get. And these were super cute. These had been in my profit pile for way too long. Just in a bin, waiting for me to get to some of my vintage stuff. And they're paper plate holders in the shape of fish. Not super rare or anything like that. I think my husband checked eBay and they're on eBay. So he just threw them in his shop for $20 and they sold. And then this is kind of a fun little thing that we've kind of gotten into. My husband sold quite a few of these recently. This one sold for $28 and it's just a very basic alarm clock. This one is by West Clocks, but it has that fake wood or the faux bois finish on the outside. You know, just kind of retro 80s, whatever. But people just like them and they sell for less on eBay. My husband's been getting about $28 to $30 on Etsy, and they actually usually sell fairly quickly. Another random sale was this emergency documents binder. My husband picked it up at our little outlet place, and it's a documents file. It hadn't been used. I think the little brass corners still had like plastic on them, and it was just a thing to throw your important documents in. So he sold it for $14 plus shipping. And then here's another one. So this one, the brand is Micronta. I think I found another Micronta at the thrift store recently, and I think he got it listed, but this one sold for $30. Same thing, just has that fake wood look to it and the red, LED, whatever you call it. Next one was a mug that we sold to a friend back in Washington that we didn't know it until we were printing the label. He got it for his son and said that they loved it. So just kind of, I don't think there was a brand. It was just an unsigned vintage coffee mug with a great graphic on it, and that sold for $15. So yay for coffee mugs. You may be here because you've seen my coffee mug videos. If so, welcome. This was interesting. This is a little jewelry box. And my husband used the video feature on Etsy. They don't have sound, but they, you can do a quick little clip. So the little swans are magnetic and they swim around when you twist it up and it plays music. So anyway, very kitschy, very fun, and that sold for $24. A weather station, barometer type thing. It's one of those things my husband just kind of always notices at thrift stores and yard sales, and he picks those up. I might even have picked this one up for him. I don't remember, but it sold for $25. This vintage bowl has been kicking around my kitchen for a long time. We've, would put fruit in it or whatever. And it was Danish modern. It was marked Denmark. The brand was Wiggers. And here, I'll click on it. And anyway, he cleaned it up and we listed it and it sold for $45. And the last one was this pair of brass candle holders. We sold a similar pair, or not a pair, but a single on eBay in the last video, what sold video. And these were a little bit of a different style, but I had bought all three together. And so this pair went for $40. They have an interesting design where they kind of swivel, so you can put them on the tabletop, but you can also hang them on the wall. And anyway, so those were our sales for the last 2 weeks. Hopefully your sales have been doing okay and hanging in there. I know it's a rough time for resellers. I will say that in my 16 years of reselling, that April is generally my worst month. I remember back in the day I used to work in a school system, and I would always have spring break, and I would be like, oh good, I get to list a bunch of stuff, during spring break. And it would hardly do, I wouldn't do very well listing that stuff during that time because people just weren't buying as much. So I always kind of attribute it to tax season. So people who are owing money are kind of, they're getting down to the wire, probably paying their tax bill at the last moment like we do. And, or maybe just a little bit cautious about their spending during that time. Plus it's spring break. People are out and about. They're going on some vacations and things like that. So hang in there. Just do what you got to do for, keeping things going. And I will have another video out later this week, and it's actually going to be something a little bit different. I'm going to do a jewelry haul. I might have to do it in 2 videos just because I found a lot of jewelry, and I don't just want to show it to you. I want to explain a little bit, and, we can do some research on the pieces together that I found. But I found a lot of really cool things. I'll explain all that in the next video, where I sourced this jewelry from. And anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. And thanks again, everybody, for all your comments and watching and supporting and thumbs ups and things like that. I appreciate it. And I will see you later this week.